gratifying to have someone to work with and partner with in that position that really wants to be a good player, really wants to help our team, and really wants to do things right for not only himself but the program. And I'm grateful to him first and foremost for coming to UVA and working as hard as he is, but I'm also excited for him for the successes that he's had, the interest he's garnering from, and what his future might look like, and the chance to lead our team 2 more times and in postseason. And he is the quarterback that's bringing this team back to postseason after, a significant drought.
And just what you can say about the team as a whole in response to you, what you did coming in, because you've been able to turn things from, a dismal season where there was a lot of adversity last year to going to the bowl season this year. And I know that you typically don't give a lot of credit to yourself, but what can you say about the buy-in of the team, kind of your message, and just how quickly the team went from watching a bowl game to going to a bowl game?
I'm humbled and grateful that they've chosen to listen and be teachable. I don't think you can teach anyone that doesn't want to be taught. And somewhere along the line, they've seen enough of substance and competency to where they've really embraced what we're trying to do. And my job is to help. And I think they see that, and I want nothing more than for them to be successful, and I think they see that as well. So I'm lucky to be here, lucky to be working with this team, with this program, and helping it learn and grow.
Thank you. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
And our next question comes to the line of Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Bronco, Virginia hasn't had huge crowds since you've been there. How important is crowd support this week and going forward?
Yeah, I think it's reflective of connection with the program, belief in the program, and sincere and authentic partnership with the program. And so I've recognized and noticed all those things, and while we're still at the front end of building our program, my hope is, and I have a picture right outside of my office that shows Scott Stadium completely full. I'm looking at it now. I can't see an empty seat. The grass hill is completely full, and I aspire for this community in this state to want and be connected with our program at that level again, and I know it's earned. And so hopefully what we've done so far this season is maybe recapturing some of the hearts that might have been lost over time, rekindling some interest, and then hopefully with continued success and sustainability, we'll see those seats be full, maybe one at a time. This is a process, and I don't know how much I can control that, but I think the bottom line is I want our players and this community and this state and this school to have an amazing college team with an amazing connection between the players and those that support. And so I'll continually look for ways to do that.
Do you think it translates into wins?
I think what it does is it helps with the momentum and home field advantage that possibly could turn a game. I'm not going to say I'm not going to overstate that, but I think it can make difficult for opponents in critical moments to take over a game. And I say that just from my experience last week, where momentum started to shift, and Miami's crowd and that venue started to make it difficult for us to recapture the momentum. And I think that's what it could be.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And our next question comes from the line of Christopher Heidel with Herb FN Sports Radio. Please go ahead.
Hi, Bronco. How you doing?
Well, thanks.
Just talked about your team last week. You took an early lead on Miami, 14-0. Is that something you guys have been working on all year to try to jump on those good teams, in a hostile environment? I know it didn't finish up well at the end, but jumping on them real early.
We love and emphasize starting fast. and it hasn't always shown, but that has been a program emphasis, and it pays and makes has a particular and special effect when you do it on the road against a very good team. And we held that and basically ran at a really high level as a team until about the 6-minute mark, and then basically that was our threshold, and we didn't sustain at that point. So we're looking to build competency and capability, but starting fast is really helpful, and it's one of our program's models. We just haven't done it consistently yet in the 2 seasons that I've been here.
And what type of quarterback is Josh Jackson, for Virginia Tech? I saw him earlier this year against West Virginia, and it was his first start, and he got a little help by Tom Brady a little bit, a little phone call from him. So what type of quarterback is he?
I think he's capable and competent and effective, and he plays in a very good system, and he's coached well. And so he's led their team to number 24 ranking and against a lot of good teams. And so it's pretty impressive for a young player to have done that.
Well, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Same to you.
Coach, it's Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Mike.
Good luck this weekend.
Okay, we'll see you.
We're now joined by Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney, whose Tigers ranked second by the College Football Playoff, will travel to Columbia, South Carolina for a Saturday game against arch rival South Carolina in Williams-Brice Stadium. The game will have a 7:30 p.m. kickoff and will be nationally televised by ESPN. Saturday's game is the 115th meeting of the two teams in football in a series which began in 1896. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
Okay. Well, we're excited about this week. First of all, I'd say happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And it's hard to believe the regular season here is coming to an end. Last week, it's a fun week. It's exciting. This is a game that we look forward to every year. It means a lot to a lot of people, and it's certainly our next goal. But we got a big challenge on our hands with South Carolina. They've had a great year, very well coached on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're playing really efficient and smart football, and that's why they're 8-3, and playing with great effort and aggressiveness, and be down there, their place, night game. A lot of emotion always tied to this game, so I know it's going to be a huge battle, but we're looking forward to the opportunity.
Questions for Coach Swinney? Okay, we'll go ahead and take Jake Trotter of ESPN.
It's looking like Baker Mayfield is probably going to win the Heisman. You had a player like that that could have won the Heisman last year in Deshaun. What does having a player like that do for your team, and what do you remember about preparing to play against and then playing against Mayfield 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, anytime you have a Heisman caliber player, I mean, that that means he's a Heisman guy for a reason. So usually that for your team, that means a lot of big plays, usually there's a lot of wins tied to those Heisman guys. That's for sure. So it's always great when you got great players. And as far as Baker Mayfield, I mean, we don't see them. I don't see them much, but played against him a couple years ago, and he is a tough one to get ready for because he is all over the place. He's got a strong arm. He's a tough physical runner. He's a great competitor, and he's kind of at his best when it's chaotic. I mean, you think you got him, and he'll scramble around and throw a touchdown pass, or he's got wheels to run away from you. So he's a really difficult player to prepare for, and that's why he's had so much success.
Thanks, Coach.
Good.
We'll take David Teal of the Daily Press next.
Coach, I know folks in your position only worry about things that you can control, but were you disappointed at all that with the ACC championship game matchup already set and with Miami already playing a day earlier than Clemson this weekend, that you were given a Saturday night game while Miami got a Friday noon game, and there's almost like a day and a half preparation time difference for the two of you as you go to the championship game?
Well, you said it. I mean, you can't spend any time worrying about things you don't control. I mean, we had the same situation for the national championship last year. I mean, we played all the way out in Arizona. Alabama played in Atlanta. They were home, pretty quickly, had that whole Sunday to prepare, or whatever day it was, and we played and traveled back the next day from all the way out in Arizona. I mean, we didn't get home. Our day was, we lost a day just because of the travel and how far we had to go, and then we were 2 or 3 hours ahead when you come back this way. So, you can't sit around and worry about that stuff. You just take what you got. It's no different than you have an open date, and so we have an open date before we play an opponent, and that opponent's playing on that weekend. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. Same thing in the NFL. Sometimes teams have open dates before you, and you can't sit around and worry about all that stuff. You just got to, do the best you can and get a good plan. I mean, shoot, we're excited about this weekend and a night game and all that stuff. I mean, it's, it is what it is. So we don't spend 2 seconds worrying about that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes on the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good morning. You know what a teammate needs to have attitude-wise, this time of year as you're getting to the important games, most important games of your schedule. How do you feel your team's mood is, your team's determination is at this point of the season?
Very focused, locked in, excited. Just understand exactly where we are and embracing the moment.
What have you told them about focusing on the game at hand on Saturday? Because obviously there's such a huge game on the horizon there with Miami.
Shoot, they don't. We ain't talked 1 second about that game next week. It's all about this week. We're playing this playoff football for us. I mean, they give a trophy out after this game. They give a trophy out after every game we play from this point forward. There's a trophy on the line. So we're dialed in and focused on just this week. That's all we're trying to do is be great this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from the line of Dan Totoro with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
To look at this team, obviously to be competitive every single year, especially at the level that you're at, you learn something as a coach each year and learn from the team as they learn from you. What have you taken away from the squad this year that's made you a better coach?
It's made me a better coach. Really just this is a very young team, a very, very young team. We only have 6 scholarship seniors, and really just, not taking for granted how hard it is to do what this team has done, but just really just reinforcing how critical it is to make sure that you don't overlook any little things when you're dealing with a bunch of young players. Everything is a big deal to these guys, and when you've lost a lot of veterans, you can kind of be in an advanced mode as a coach, and it's just important that you understand you have to start over with a lot of these guys, and you've got to go and meet them where they are. You can't expect them to be where you are. So that's probably the main thing.
And when you're learning through, this young team, and obviously, like you said, they're experiencing these things for the first time. Where's some of the leadership that's come from this for you that you've been able to do this year?
You broke up on that last part. I think you said, did you say something about leadership on our team?
Yeah, leadership from some of the young guys on the team.
Oh, yeah. Well, we work hard at developing leadership, and our seniors have done a good job. We don't have many. We do have a really strong junior class, but we talk to them all the time. You don't have to wait to be a senior to be a great leader, and I've seen that from a lot of these guys. I mean, we got a bunch of sophomores that I think have stepped up for us and provided excellent leadership, really at every position, and guys have bought in. But I think that speaks to, again, that junior and senior group that really know who we are and what we do and how we do it, and reinforcing things. When you're not looking, whether it's on the practice field, it's in the locker room, or whatever it may be. I think our guys have done a good job in really making sure that we develop these young guys.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Coaches Mike Finn in Greensboro, thanks for being with us. Good luck this weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you on Sunday at 4 o'clock for the first of three Dr. Pepper championship game press teleconferences.
Okay, appreciate it.
Those three teleconferences, by the way, for those who are on right now, we will have the coaches, both participating coaches in the ACC Dr. Pepper championship game, available on Sunday at 4 with Coach Sweeney, kicking off at 4 o'clock, Coach Richt at 4:30. And then on Monday, the 27th, we'll have three Clemson student-athletes available on a call at 11:30. And then on Tuesday, November 28th, we'll have three student-athletes from Miami available beginning at 12 noon. The numbers for all those calls is the same that you dialed in today, with one exception. The Miami call on Tuesday will be 1-800-954-0621. Now we go to and welcome Florida State head coach Jimbo Fisher, whose Seminoles will travel to Gainesville, Florida for a Saturday game against arch rival Florida at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. The game will have a noon kickoff, be nationally televised by ESPN. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Yes. Very happy with our guys last week. Played a complete game, all three phases. Guys affected the game, did a great job in the game, and played through the game. We got so many young players involved and played that, saw their development, got them some more reps and quality time, and also a lot of young guys on our team that don't get a chance, and they were in there to do some things, so it was a great outing. So we got it was great. It was a great weekend. So we need to come back this week, play a great game against Florida. We have one of the all-time great rivalries in college football. Very blessed to be a part of it. We have to go play a complete game down there in one of the toughest places to play in college football. So we'll be have to have a great week of practice and get ready to play. Questions?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes from the line of Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Jimbo, I know last week's opponent isn't on the same level as some of the others that you play, but what can a performance like you had on offense do for the confidence of your players going into this game?
Well, I think it lets them know that what they are capable of doing, and that they play with great consistency, which I was happy with. Different guys touched the ball and did things. So, anytime you have success, it builds confidence. Anytime you build confidence, you're going to play better, there's no doubt.
Well, besides that consistency, what other takeaways were you able to get from the performance?
Well, a lot of our young guys got some of them playing time. They have a great chance, I think, in the play in the future that I think are going to be the kind of players we think they are. That, getting extended time for them in a game, instead of 6 or 8 plays, they got 25 or 30 plays, what that feels like. So if that has to happen here, and then toward the end of the year for us, and then you get development there. And I think offense, defense, special teams, all those guys, they just feel good about themselves. And I think when you do that, you play better.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of Ed Harden with Greensboro News. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Jimbo, how are you approaching the fact that you have 2 games left? And does that give you maybe a chance to redeem the season a little bit with a bowl eligibility still out there? And what's that been like, having that game hanging out there all year?
The game hasn't been a problem. I mean, we're glad to play it because, I mean, you want to play 12 games a year, so that's our opportunity to do for our kids, and I think that's awesome as far as that goes. But, I mean, we always want to beat a bowl game. That's one of the things. We got our streak of 35 straight years, so I think that's very important, and it's always one of our goals that we can achieve. And I think it's still out there, and our kids are playing very hard for it, and I think they're looking forward to playing both games.
And our next question comes to the line of Christopher Heidel with the Herb FN Sports Radio. Please go ahead.
Hi, Jimbo. How you doing?
Hey, Chris. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. Talk about Randy Chan. I was on the teleconference call with you yesterday about Randy Chan. Is he just talk about his defense when he was down in Miami? What type of defense did he throw at you guys? Because I know you played each other a lot with Miami and Florida State. What is he bringing to Florida right now with his defense?
Oh, he's very multiple. I mean, Randy's one of the great, always had a great defense down there, had some of the best in the country, and some of the best in college football history. Great players, great guys. They were coached very well. A lot of 4-3 stuff, but he's multiple in his fronts. He mixes it up, mixes his coverages up, and, I mean, just a really, really good football coach.
And I have a question to ask you. With this whole season, with the turmoil, with the injuries and all, have you ever gone through a season like this before in your career from LSU, Auburn? And how did you learn from it from previously to help you get better, with this situation this year?
Oh, we did. I mean, you have those off and on. I mean, we had a lot of different things, and each year brings you something different. So you're used to handling those things, but it's all a challenge in a lot of different ways, and you learn from experience, and hopefully in the future when things happen, we can handle them even better.
Well, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
And our next question comes to the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Sometimes when you have a rough season like you've had, a team can just kind of fall apart, attitude-wise, and just not care anymore and pack it in early. Doesn't seem like it's happened with you guys. What have you noticed about your attitude this year?
Well, I think we have a lot of kids that have a lot of pride, and like I say, they're trying hard, and they understand the legacy in which they're playing with, but also the way the program is built, the culture of it. And like I say, just so you don't lose your culture and ability to keep competing, things can be overcome, and you can fix problems. And I think that's just a tribute to our kids and our coaches, our assistant coaches, to keep their enthusiasm and their attitudes sky high. But I think it's part of the culture here at Florida State and what we've been able to build over time. And I mean, things just don't deteriorate over a year. You can overcome things. Sometimes you have mistakes, but as long as that culture and attitude are right, you can overcome them. And I think it's just a tribute to our kids. I really do. And our assistant coaches have done a really good job of keeping those guys involved and engaged. And very proud of them for doing that.
How have you been able to do that, I guess? What's been the key to doing that?
Being honest with them. And the culture we've built. I mean, it's what we do, whether you win or lose. And that doesn't determine how hard you play or the effort you give or the pride you have. And I think that's from what we've built over the last 7-8 years and then what was built here before. I mean, that's what we've instilled in our kids and how we've tried to play.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next question comes to the line of Dan Tortora with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Doing well. To look at your rushing attack with Jack Fitzpatrick, Ryan Green, Cam Akers and company, just what you can say that you've taken away from the committee at running back that you've had this year.
Well, that we have very good backs. I mean, our guys are very multidimensional, and you have to have that in today's time with the punishment backs take and how physical the game is. And I think they're very well diverse in whether inside runners, outside runners, catching the ball and doing those things. I think they've had good years.
And then as far as Florida State, obviously the culture is of winning and something that was created with Bobby Bowden and continue with yourself. When there is adversity, just what you can say about handling adversity in the here and now when we live in a society of what have you done for me lately, how do you kind of navigate that storm?
Well, be honest and understand and let them remember their past and what we've done and what it means. And just because you may not win as many games, you can leave a legacy that's just as strong to the young players on this team and with the leadership of this team of how you handled tough situations, which allowed good situations to occur. Because if you can go in a tank and then totally destroy a program, and then it's never you get back. But what our older guys have done and our younger guys have done, and understand that how you play and the attitude in which you play with is just as important as the results, because the results will come if you can keep that. And I think they understand that, and I think it's a great tribute to our assistant coaches and our players to be able to do that.
Thanks, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
Coach, this is Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend.
Mike, I'd like to say one thing, buddy. I know this will be my last time with you. I know you're retiring after this year, and it has been a great joy to hear you do it. And you're a class act and one of the best I've ever been around. And I wish you nothing but happiness, and I hope you're in your retirement and you can get away from all of us crazy people now and enjoy your life, buddy. I thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
His comments are much appreciated. Take care.
Thank you.
We'll be joined momentarily by Coach Petrino of Louisville. We now welcome Louisville head coach Bobby Petrino, whose Cardinals will travel to Lexington, Kentucky for a Saturday game against arch rival Kentucky at Kroger Stadium. The game will have a noon kickoff and be televised by the SEC network. Saturday's game marks the 30th meeting of the in-state rivals who will battle for the Governor's Cup of the Commonwealth. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
We're coming off of a good win against Syracuse at home in inclement weather. I thought we played well. I was really impressed with our defense. Offensively, Lamar had another great game, and our running backs had a big day. So we're looking forward to going on the road and playing a good Kentucky team.
Questions for Coach Petrino?
To register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from the line of Dan Totoro with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good, Dan. How you doing?
Doing well. Kind of going off of what you were saying in the intro on the victory over Syracuse, just what you saw from the defense, because from the beginning you're able to pick it apart and find those openings and those opportunities. Just what you can say about picking apart the defense of Syracuse and what you took away ultimately from the game.
Yeah, we did a really nice job of running the football. You know, it was good to be able to just hand the ball to running backs, and they made big yards and broke tackles and big plays. Lamar executed our option game real well. And then we were able to, throw the ball down the field. We hit some big plays, and Jalen Smith had a great game for us, and Lamar's touchdown throws were right on the money. So it's one of those things where when you're working together, run game, pass game, and we're able to be real consistent. The other thing that was real impressive with our offense was with the rain and the wind, we didn't put the ball on the ground at all.
And then as far as where the team was this season, there was some adversity in the beginning, but you have an opportunity. Last season you ended 9-4. You have an opportunity to do that again and get to 9 wins. Just what you can say about how the team responded and kind of regrouped in the middle of the season and got to where you are right now.
Yeah, it was real impressive with our players' attitudes and their ability to come to practice and work hard and stay positive and just focus on getting better. We also got some players back, some guys that got healthy. So we're probably as healthy as we've been all year, and our guys are playing with speed and confidence, and I'm excited to see how we do on Saturday.
Thanks, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you.
Our next question comes from the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good morning. As obviously Kentucky has a good running back in Snell. What stands out to you about him as you look at him on film this week?
Yeah, he's a real physical runner. He's very powerful. He sees things real well, and he accelerates through the holes. So we've got to do a good job of trying to make sure we keep the line of scrimmage there and not give him a lot of room.
What have you liked about your run defense these past few weeks here?
Yeah, I've been really excited about how our defensive linemen are playing with technique and shedding blocks. Our linebackers are coming downhill and doing a good job in our gap control. And we're getting a lot of statistics or a lot of tackles out of our safeties. And that's what you need in college football. You need to have your safeties get involved in the run game.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of David Hale with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Hey, Bobby, there wasn't certainly very much that Lamar could look back on last year and say didn't go well for him, but how much did the way that the Kentucky game ended last year kind of linger with him? And do you get a sense that this one is kind of special and important to him to kind of make up for how that one ended?
Yeah, I hope not. I hope that he understand that he competed and played as hard as he possibly could and did everything that he could to get a win for us. He's done a great job of this year of just focusing on improvement and competing. He loves to compete. He's the ultimate competitor. He loves playing every single game, and he gives his best effort every single week.
Yeah, it felt like last year there were times where maybe some people kind of criticized him a little bit for his competitiveness, that he was so competitive that he'd get upset when things weren't going well. How do you feel like his maturity has come along this year, just in terms of kind of understanding the ups and downs of a season?
Yeah, well, if people did that, they don't have a very good clue, because Lamar's very poised. He plays one play at a time. He puts things behind him very well, and he does a great job of focusing on the sideline and taking coaching and then going out on the field and getting better as the game goes on. So, I think he's had a great year. He's been a pleasure to coach, and he's going to keep playing well.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Bobby, as a follow-up to that, do you think Lamar deserves to be in New York again for the Heisman ceremony?
I mean, I think he does for sure. I mean, I can't imagine that there's better players in the country than Lamar Jackson. His ability to throw the ball, run the football. Obviously we had struggles there early in the season, but it really wasn't his play. He was playing great and doing everything he could for us to win. And his statistics and what he's done as a quarterback and what he's done throughout the history of college football and what he's now done speaks for itself.
And you mentioned about getting some players back, and that helped you guys out. Specifically, how important has it been to get Jair back on defense, and how much has that elevated their play?
Yeah, Jair helps the entire team because he's such a personality, and he's got great confidence, besides being a tremendous player on the field. But he just helps us practice. He helps us focus. He gave us a lot of confidence. Stacey Thomas coming back full speed and playing the way he is, and James Hearns, really playing the way that he can play and rushing the quarterback. So the three of those guys have really, really helped us.
Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next question comes to the line of Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please go ahead.
Hi, Chris. Bobby, how you doing?
Good, Christopher. How you doing?
Doing great. Just talk about this Kentucky squad. Are they a vastly improved squad from last year?
They played good football all year. They've got a good defense. They've got a lot of the same guys back, and they're doing a good job with the scheme they run. They've been doing a good job in the secondary. And offensively, they always have had the ability to run the football and throw it down the field. So they challenge you in being able to stop the run and defend the deep ball.
And just talk about this game for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. What is this like for having you guys play each other? Like, I know Louisville and Kentucky play a lot in the basketball, but it's good to get the football program rolling.
Yeah, I mean, it's been going on, for a long time now, and it's good. It's on rivalry weekend, and certainly means a lot to all of us.
Well, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Any more questions for Coach Petrino? Coach, thanks for being with us today, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
We'll be joined momentarily by Coach Babers of Syracuse. Okay, we're back, and we now welcome Syracuse head coach Dino Babers. whose Orange will host Boston College this Saturday at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. The game will have a 12:20 p.m. kickoff. Will be televised nationally to 120 markets of the ACC network, including WSTM-TV in Syracuse and WSBK-TV in Boston. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and then we'll go to questions.
Well, first of all, obviously, hats off to Coach Petrino. That football team we played Saturday night was outstanding, and they beat us in every facet and every way, so hats off to them. Before I start with Boston College, I'd like to start this last week off with saying congratulations to you, Mike, on your retirement. I hope you fish long and hard and get to do all the things that we don't have time to do. How about that?
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate that. I don't fish, but that's okay.
Well, okay. All right. Well, let's open it up to questions then. How about that?
Ladies and gentlemen, to register for a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes to the line of Dan Tortora with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Welcome to the conference and service. May I have your first and last name, please?
Coach, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Yes, sir.
Okay. So just to take a look at the defense this season, I know obviously there's been the victory over Clemson where the defense was able to buckle down, and Pittsburgh before that, and then since then 64 points and 56 given up. Just what you can say about how the defense has kind of gone through, the peaks and valleys of this year, and just what your takeaways are.
Well, obviously, injuries play a role in that, and but everybody has those at this stage of the game. I think the biggest thing is that our last two opponents have been able to run and throw the football, and when you don't take a dimension away from a football team, it makes it very hard for them to defend, especially when they've been operating at the level that our last two opponents have been operating on. So obviously our hands are full with Boston College because they want to run the football no matter what, and they are more than capable of forcing their will on people. So it's going to be a very, very difficult task to stop them at our place, but we're looking forward to the challenge.
And when you look at finishing strong, even though that's not going to mean a bowl game for this season and your second season, just what you can say about team buy-in and keeping the culture positive and just how the guys have responded to you as you move forward into the final game.
Well, I think when you talk about what these 2017 seniors have done, I think they're going to be the cornerstone, the brick, the foundation of what we're going to get done in the future. There's no doubt that we're going to win here and we're going to be successful. But I think the 2017 class should get a lot of credit for that. And one of the reasons why we want to send them out the right way is that I hope when these young men play their last game on Saturday and they come back in 2018 and 2019 and 2020 when things are different, that the people in the community and the football family gives them the due that they deserve, because they've been a big part of this transition and they're going to be part of the success that we're going to have in the future.
Thanks, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Dan.
And our next question comes to the line of Sam Blum with the Daily Press. Please go ahead.
Hey, Dino. Last week, Bronco Mendenhall mentioned that he thought if he had to make one rule change, it would be, not letting coaches ever leave their school before, I guess, their bowl game. I'm curious how you kind of think of that idea, just kind of conceptually, especially as a coach that, obviously once left Bowling Green before the bowl game was played.
I did enjoy doing that. I did enjoy sending my team to a bowl game without me being there, and it was part of the deal, and I get that, and I started work here early, but I think Bronco may be onto something. I mean, you're part of a family, you're part of a bond. Now, I understand that when you leave, you leave. One of the things I think that was really important is I would take it a step further and let the team vote on it. If the team wanted the old head coach to be with them, he could. And if they didn't want him to be with them, I could understand that too. But to just say that you can't do it because it's a new employer, I could see how that could have some merit.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys?
Our next question comes to the line of John Kikis with the Associated Press. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach.
Hi.
And happy holiday. Before I forget, happy holiday too. And I know you still have one game left, but how big of a factor to you is the lack of depth, or is depth, as far as being successful?
You know, it all started. You know, when we started taking away scholarships from the football teams, and when we cut back down to 85, and that really limits the amount of people that you have that you can actually play with, especially when you take the 85, and let's say that you're redshirting 15 to 20 of those guys. That means you're operating with 65 to 70 players, and depending on how the injuries fall, it can really affect your football team. Now, it affects everybody's football team, and on the flip side of that, it's one of the things that makes college football so exciting is the parity, because when guys do get hurt, if the coaches scheme it up right, they can really make a game a lot closer than maybe it should be if they had more depth, especially when you're playing some of the bigger or more traditional schools. But don't underestimate the value of having enough good players at certain positions to be able to carry things out. And that works for the positive and it works for the negative, so it all comes out in the wash. But I think it is important.
And it's been pretty important for you, too, obviously. Right? If you had not so many injuries, you'd be farther ahead.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, like last year, we had an opportunity where we had a lot of injuries in the offensive line, and we just couldn't get things going. And then this year, knock on wood, we had one injury in the offensive line before the season started. Our best offensive lineman, we lost him in July, but outside of that, we haven't lost an offensive lineman. But when you flip over onto the defensive side, who was playing so well early, they've lost defensive backs, safeties. They've lost basically everybody but the linebackers, defensive ends, defensive tackles. But again, that's with everybody. And that's why you can have maybe one type of offense at the beginning of the year and another type at the end, and one type of defense in the beginning of the year and another type at the end. And just with the Clemson game, I mean, them not playing with their quarterback in the second half, you would have to say that affected them, just like us not playing with our quarterback the last 2 years in the month of November is affecting us.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes to the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Just to follow up on what you said about your run defense in terms of Boston College, what does the run defense need to do better than it has the last few weeks in order to be able to stop BC this week?
Well, I don't want to put the game plan out there, but we've got to do a lot. Really, Boston College probably runs the ball better than the last two opponents we just played. And the last two opponents we both played had the ability to run the ball on us. So that's not good for us, and it's really good for them. We've got to find a way to put an effort out there that we haven't put out there in the last 2 weeks if we're going to have an opportunity to have success at the end of the day.
What were you doing well on run defense earlier in the season you kind of need to get back to?
Well, I thought that based off of some of the injuries we've had in the secondary, being able to play more man coverage with the guys that we have now, we have certain guys that are better zone players than necessarily defensive players. We've got to find a way to get back to that. Putting those guys in isolation situations on the back end where they can't hold up to superior wide receivers is a fast way to give up a touchdown, and you can see that based off of some of our previous games.
Thank you.
And our next question comes to the line of Ed Harden with the Greensboro News. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Dino, as you look back across the season, as everybody looks back across your season, the Clemson game stands out. As you try to make sense of it, did that game ramp up expectations so much that it helped, lead to a 4-game losing streak, or has it been injuries? And how will you look back on the season, particularly with that Clemson game right in the middle of it all?
First of all, I'm not. I think I know the question you're asking. Let me try to answer it this way. I thought in the 2016 season that the win over Virginia Tech, with them winning the other side of the conference, was a critical win for us, even though we didn't get to a bowl game. I thought that win helped us in recruiting. I think in 2017, a win over Clemson that may have an opportunity to still win a national championship, which is exactly what I stated after we beat them, is going to be a big help when it comes to recruiting. Now, in 2016 and 2017, both of those seasons, we had opportunities to go to bowl games, and if we'd have been able to do that, that would have been outstanding. But don't take away the value. Don't take away the value of being able to beat a
the other side conference champion, or be able to beat this side's conference champion, or play close to a Miami team that has an opportunity to win the championship on the other side, because that does help recruiting, and it does help recruiting a great deal. So it didn't finish exactly the way we wanted it, but I'll take those wins, and then I'll roll into 2018 and see how we can do.
Thanks, Dino.
And our next question comes from the line of Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please go ahead.
Hi, Dino. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Doing great. Talk about your seniors. This is senior Saturday, senior day. Just talk about, you only been there for 2 years. Just talk about your seniors and what are they meant for your program.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm so proud of these guys. I really feel like they're the cornerstone of the foundation that we're building here. They had to go through a transition, obviously a second head coach, and it's hard for young people to do that, to be recruited by one grown man in your living room saying this and that to your mom and dad, and then to have someone else come along and change all that. And they had to operate on faith, belief without evidence. And I really believe that the 2017 seniors is a part of the foundation that we're going to build here. And when we do win, and we will win in the future, 2019, 2020, 2018, 2021, I hope that these guys can come back to the Syracuse area, and I hope that the football family and the community gives them their due, because they're a part of that tradition. And it's going to be big when we start winning on the back end, that these guys get the credit that they deserve on the front end.
And I know you played against Clemson and Miami. You beat Clemson. You had a tough game against Miami. You came down to the wire. Just talk about those two teams playing in the title game next week, and what does that mean for the league, having those two teams hopefully possibly being in the college football playoff?
I think it's big for the league. Coach Rick's doing an awesome job, leaving Georgia and getting a very young Miami team into that location. And then I think the world of Coach Dabo, Coach Sweeney. I think his program is one of the elite programs that's on the rise, and it's going to stay there. And they do a fabulous job. So it's almost one of those old school coaches versus the young school, new ideal coach. And I think it's really good for the ACC, and I think it's really good for the league. And I think it'll be a fantastic game.
Well, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you very much, sir.
Any more questions for Coach Babers? Coach, thanks for being with us all season long. Oh, we've got one more question. We've got a follow-up from Dan Tortora.
Dan Tortora with the wakeupcalldt.com. Your line is open. Please proceed.
Coach, just a quick follow-up on Eric Dungy, obviously going through injury the last few seasons here. Just what you can say about, building toward the future, knowing that Zach Mahoney's been backing him up for a while and won't be there. Just what you can say about Rex and Tommy DeVito and just trying to prepare guys as you get set in case there is that unfortunate happening again.
One thing that I don't do is I don't talk about guys that haven't been on the football field yet, so I will not talk about Tommy DeVito. I think Rex is going to get better. As young men play, especially in the quarterback position, they have a tendency to get better. And I think that the second half against Louisville was really his first really big-time work where it mattered, and there were some really good guys in there playing, and he played against them, and he did okay. Now, if he gets another opportunity, and I suspect he will, he needs to do better. And that's what normally happens with young players when they start getting playing time. They get the speed of the game, they get the taste in their mouth, they kind of they figure some things out, and then normally, if they're made of the right stuff, they get better. And I think that Rex is made of the right stuff, so I would anticipate him getting better.
And then as far as Dungy, just, even when he's not out there, just what he means to this team on the sideline and just the importance of having his leadership and his energy with you, whether it's out on the field or if it unfortunately has to be there on the sideline.
Well, Eric's one of our elected team captains, and that's elected by the players. It's not selected by the coaches. And obviously the way he plays is at a very, very elite level. The way he competes is a very, very elite level. And I think that the guys appreciate the way he plays the game, and I think they appreciate when he can't play the game. being on the sideline and giving them the mental and moral support that they can go out there and do some of the things that he was capable of doing, if not physically, then in heart. And he's a big part of what we do, and we appreciate him when he's on the field, and we appreciate him when he's off the field with us in spirit.
Thanks, Coach. Happy holidays once again.
Same to you, Dan. Thank you.
Coach, I think this is it. Thanks for being with us. Your comments earlier were much appreciated, and good luck this weekend.
Mike, you got to find something to do if you don't know how to fish, brother. Find something.
I like the beach. Okay.
Okay, go to the beach then. Have a good one, Mike.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
We'll have a short break, and we'll be back with Coach Paul Johnson of Georgia Tech right at 11:30. Okay, we're back now, and we're joined by Georgia Tech head coach Paul Johnson, whose Yellow Jackets will host arch rival in 7th-ranked Georgia at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta. The game will have a noon kickoff, be nationally televised by ABC. Saturday's game marks the 112th meeting between the two teams in a season that began in 1893. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and then we'll go to questions.
Well, good morning. As you mentioned, this is our big rivalry game for the year. Certainly it's going to be a huge challenge for us. I think the University of Georgia probably has the best team they've had since I've been here in the 10 years. So they're playing very well, come in at 10-1 and looking for a spot in the college football playoff if they can win the SEC championship game the next week. So we've got a lot of work cut out for us, and looking forward to the challenge on Saturday.
Questions for Coach Johnson?
To register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes from the line of Dan Tortora with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. To have this final game, and obviously it'd be a rivalry game, but you're also in control of your own destiny for a bowl opportunity. Just what you can say about still having that in front of you as you move forward.
Well, it's an opportunity. We'll see if we can take advantage. We've had a couple of shots to finish that off and hadn't been able to do it on the road. So we're on a little win streak at home. We'll see if we can keep that thing going. Certainly, this is one of the better teams we've played this year.
And as far as Taquan Marshall, who I asked you about earlier on in the season, just how you've seen him progress and just what his maturation has been over this year.
Well, I think he's progressed. He's made a lot of plays for us. I think both he and Cravante both hit the 1,000-yard mark in the last game with Duke. So, and both of them were able to do it in 10 games. So it's he's played well. He's certainly got some things he can improve on, but he's played well for us this year.
Thanks, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
And our next question comes on the line from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Obviously, Georgia's got a very good running back in Chubb. What stands out to you as you look at him on film this week?
Well, he's physical and a big back. They've got several good running backs. I think Sonny Michel is one of the better players in the country. I mean, he's a guy that's got great speed. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. He's kind of a jack-of-all-trades guy, but, both those guys are good. And then they've got good receivers and tight ends, and, they got a good football team.
Defensively, what do you need to do to kind of recapture what you had against Virginia Tech that's kind of not been for you defensively last week and in recent games?
Yeah, well, we didn't play much defense last week. We've got to tackle better for one thing, and everybody says that when you play Georgia, you got to stop the run. It's easy to say that. Nobody's really been able to do it, maybe except for Auburn. So that's going to be a challenge. We certainly got to play the run better than we did a week ago to have any chance.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes to the line of John Kikis with the Associated Press. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to ask a recruiting question. How difficult is it to recruit there? Is it similar to what you experienced at Navy because you play the triple option? You use the triple option?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with recruiting. It's no different. I mean, there's some barriers here, but it doesn't have anything to do with the offense, I don't think.
No, you don't feel like it's more difficult to recruit players to play a run game?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes from the line of Mark Weiser with the Athens Banner-Herald. Please go ahead.
Hey, Paul. Georgia spent some time during this season in Monday practices preparing for your offense. Is that common? Have you heard of that through the years?
I wouldn't know. What other teams do. Usually, you don't know. I think maybe I've heard a couple teams in the conference say they do that or spend some weeks in the spring. It's going to come down to execution. I mean, that's what it always comes down to, blocking and tackling. So, Now, if they did, that's flattering to us.
And obviously you've coached for a long time. You mentioned Chubb and Michelle earlier. How do they compare as far as a top combo at running back that an opposing team has had?
Well, they're really good. I'm not sure that we've played anybody that has two backs like that, and they're both good and really good in their own right. They're a little different. They're both physical, but Nick's a little bigger and Michelle's a little more viable, I think, in the passing game and those kind of things, although they both can do it. But they're both really good players.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our next question comes from the line of Todd Forrest with North Georgia News. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. How you doing?
Good.
I just wanted to ask you about your former longtime assistant, Brian Bohannon, just led Kennesaw State to his first conference title and playoff appearance. I just wonder if you had the chance to catch any of their games or have any contact with him during the year, and are you surprised that he found success this quickly in a new program like that?
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, we've texted and talked a couple of times during the year. I'm excited for him and for what he's done up there. I think that he's gone in and he's got a good staff and they're committed to what they do and they've done a really good job. So hopefully they can win a game or two in the playoffs. That'd be great.
Thanks, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too.
Our next question comes from the line of Tom Shanahan with FanRag Sports. Please go ahead.
Hi, Coach. I was hoping to get some thoughts from you on your old assistant, Coach Jeff Monken, and how he's accomplished a pretty monumental turnaround at Army.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Jeff as well. He's had a great year, and I think that they went in there and have done the same thing. They've kind of stayed the course. They have a philosophy, and Jeff was a big part of our turning the thing around at Navy. He saw how it worked, and I think he's gone in there and implemented a lot of that stuff, and then some of his own ideas, and they've had a good year to this point.
And they had to end that streak against Navy, and you had to do the same thing against Army. Is the first win over your rival harder, or the second one?
I guess they're all hard. I don't remember. That seems like 100 years ago, but we were fortunate when I was the head coach there at Navy. We never lost to Army, so we were fortunate that way.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Our next question comes from the line of Sam Blum with Daily Progress. Please go ahead.
Hi. Last week, Bronco Mendenhall said on the teleconference that he thought that head coaches shouldn't ever leave their school until a bowl game is played, assuming that team's in a bowl game. I'm curious, just from your perspective, having kind of gone through that experience, what you kind of think of that statement, and if you think it, obviously even now 10 years later, might be something that makes sense or doesn't.
I think each situation is different. I think that once it breaks and the word is out, it's probably hard to stay there and coach. I don't think that your mind's probably there, and I'm not sure that the players or the people there would want you there if you're leaving. So I think each situation is just different. It depends on the situation. I think it's probably different if you're retiring or you're not going to another school or something like that. But if you've taken another job and everybody already knows that you're going to be at another school, I think it would be difficult to stay there and coach.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Any more questions for Coach Johnson?
Please press 1-4 to register for a question.
Coach, thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend.
Okay, thanks.
We'll be back momentarily with Coach Larry Fedora of North Carolina. We're back, and we're now joined by North Carolina head coach Larry Fedora. The Tar Heels will travel the short distance to Raleigh, North Carolina for a Saturday game against arch rival NC State at Carter Finley Stadium. The game will have a 3:30 p.m. kickoff. Will be nationally televised on ESPNU. Saturday's game marks the 107th meeting between the two schools in a series which began in 1894 in Chapel Hill. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Yeah, Mike, we're excited about this game. I mean, we get to go to their stadium and play in front of a hostile crowd, and it will be against a really good football team. So it should be a heck of a game.
Questions for Coach Fedora.
To register for a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes from the line of Dan Totora with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
To look at your team, obviously there's been some adversity this season, but to have 2 wins most recently, just what you could say about building morale and looking to finish strong with this rivalry game in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah, this game is obviously very important for us. I mean, in the state and going forward, and we have built a little bit of momentum with this football team with all these young guys that are playing. And every positive thing that can happen is important to us going forward. So we want to finish strong.
And then as far as the quarterbacks that you've had out there, you've had multiple guys behind center, and Chaz and Nathan and Brandon as well. Just what you can say that you've taken away as you look to build for your future as you're obviously working through your present at that quarterback position, and what some of those takeaways have been from the guys that you've had.
Yeah, I think each and every one of those guys has gotten a little bit better as the season's gone on, and Nathan has jumped in and taken advantage of his opportunity and has taken care of the football, which always enables you to have a chance. And so I'm impressed with all of them, impressed with the development that they've had, and I'm excited because they're all young and they've got a chance to be really good.
Thanks, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
And our next question comes from the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good morning. As you look at Chubb on film this week, I guess what jumps out at you to kind of explain why he's emerged as one of the better defensive players in the country this year?
Well, he was that same player last year also. I don't know if he got the credit that he deserved last year, but he's getting it this year. He's a very strong, very twitchy, explosive player that makes plays throughout the game and does a lot. I mean, whether he's rushing the passer or he's squeezing the run or he's dropping into coverage.
What kind of onus does that put on your offensive line to kind of constantly be aware of him and give him extra attention, perhaps, because of how impactful he is?
Well, you've always got to be aware of where he is. I mean, he's gonna make plays, and you've got to do everything that you can in your scheme to make sure that that he doesn't single-handedly beat you.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of Ed Harden with the Greensboro News. Please go ahead.
Larry, going back through all your coaching career, even back as far as high school, have you ever had a season like this, anything like this, in terms of the losses and the injuries? And as you look back,
No, I haven't. My 30 years, I've never experienced anything like this.
What are you going to do in the off season? How will you get over this? How will you move on? And what will you take away from what has been a disaster in some ways?
Well, we'll learn from everything that we've done. I mean, we've gotten better as a football team. We've had a lot of young guys that have been forced into playing and have gotten some valuable reps, and which is going to make them even better. And so we'll continue to do the things. I don't think that we need to really worry about what we do, because what we do is proven. So we just need to pick it up and from where we leave at the end of this season, jump into the off season and have a great off season and spring ball and summer, and get better as a football team.
Will you double down and work even harder? Is that even fair to ask? I mean, or are you ready
Let
to
me
go
ask
to the
you
beach?
this: if I said I was going to work harder, then that means I hadn't been working as hard as I could up to this point. So I can't tell you that I will work any harder.
Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Any more questions for Coach Fedora?
To register a question, please press the 1-4. And we have a question from the line of David Teal with the Daily Press. Please go ahead.
Larry, I apologize for the uncomfortable question, but I think it must be asked. At what stage are you in the grieving process that this is Mike's last regular season teleconference?
You know what? This has been a tough phone call just thinking about this moment, knowing that this would be the last time that Mike and I are on a call together. It's really tough, but being so close to Thanksgiving, I can count my blessings to the many, many times that I've had the opportunity to hear his voice.
Perfect.
We definitely have to screen our calls better than this. Are there any more questions for Coach? Coach, thanks for being with us today, and good luck this weekend.
Mike, in all seriousness, you know I'm going to miss you, man, and thanks for the relationship that we have. It's been a blast.
It's been totally my pleasure. Take care.
Okay, see you.
We'll be back right at 11:50 with Coach Justin Fuente of Virginia Tech. We're back, and now we're joined by Virginia Tech head coach Justin Fuente. whose Hokies, ranked 24th nationally by the Associated Press this week, traveled to Charlottesville, Virginia for a Friday night game against arch rival Virginia at Scott Stadium. The game will have an 8 p.m. kickoff, be nationally televised by ESPN. Saturday's game is the 99th meeting between the two schools in football, in a series that began in 1895 in Charlottesville. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
Sure. Coming off an emotional Senior Day win against a very tough physical Pittsburgh team, we're in the middle of our short week, getting ready for our rivalry game at Virginia. I did mention this the other day. I just, again, want to congratulate Tremaine Edmonds on being a finalist for the Buckus Award. Just a great young man. It's always nice to see good people get recognized for their hard work.
Questions for Coach Fuente?
To register for a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes from the line of Dan Tortora with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. To go a little bit deeper into the rivalry, just what you can say about Virginia Tech, Virginia, what it's come to mean to you in your couple seasons there so far.
Well, it's an important game to both sides. We obviously in this state, the people that went to both respective institutions have a lot of pride in their schools. It's meant a lot to players and fans alike that have gone to go to both schools, and it's kind of an honor to be a part of it. To gain the appreciation for the rivalry and understanding of that it means so much to so many people, and it's a fun thing to be a part of.
And then for you in your first season with Virginia Tech, got to 10 wins. You have an opportunity to, if you win this game and win the bowl game, to get to 10 as well this season. Just what you can say about this team's progression. And I know we've spoken about it before, how quickly they bought in and carried over, and you were able to bond your staff with some of the people that were there. Just what you can say about the success of Virginia Tech and the fact that you can have back-to-back double-digit winning seasons.
Well, I mean, we don't need to put the cart before the horse. We've got a tremendous challenge this week just to get one win. But, the transition's gone smoothly. I'm proud of our players. Each year is a different year. It's not a straight ascension. What happened the year before has zero to little impact on this year, but I've been proud of our guys. At some points, as a team, I think we've played better in some instances than we actually are, which is probably makes me most proud. I just like the way our guys continue to go to work every single day and trying to find a way to win games.
Thank you, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you.
Our next question comes from the line of Mike Barber with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. I'm curious, I guess you mentioned yesterday that you didn't have an injury update yet. Do you have anything on Luke Reynolds and Vinny Mahota?
Not yet.
All right, thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of Sam Blum with the Daily Progress. Please go ahead.
Hey, Justin. Last week, it was a Bronco question, but not really related to the game. He mentioned how he doesn't think coaches, if there's any rule that could kind of be created, that coaches shouldn't be allowed to leave their school before that team plays in their bowl game. I'm curious if you think that that's an idea that's even kind of feasible, and how you kind of, might look at that in the context of having, left Memphis before a bowl game.
Do I think there should be a rule to prevent them? Is that what you're asking me?
Well, do you think there should be a rule, or is it even a feasible idea, I guess, kind of are the two questions there.
Well, I don't know. I know it's a painful process for everybody involved. I do know that. I agree with Bronco on that line. It's not fun for anyone. It's been my short experience that when those decisions are made, that your previous school that is not really interested in having you around, and your new school would like to have you there as quickly as possible. So
I don't know how feasible it is. I understand that it is an uncomfortable and painful situation. I know it was very difficult for me personally to watch not be with my guys a couple years ago as they were playing in the bowl game. So oftentimes it's just not a lot of control at that point.
Thanks, Justin.
Uh-huh.
And our next question comes to the line of David Hale with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Hey, Justin, I'm not sure that you would necessarily say that it's been consistent this year, but it certainly seems that as the year's gone along, your young receivers, Kuma and Savoy, have improved a good bit. What would be your take on their seasons as a whole, and as you kind of look forward to seeing them out there a year from now, where do you think that they might be?
Well, I would say that they have improved, and it's been a slow process. I think we're still trying to gain some consistency. I think Eric has become a more consistent player for us, and I'm really proud of that. I mean, he's playing well on special teams and contributing in the pass game. Sean is still just a true freshman and has some of those true freshman moments out there. So I guess in short, I would say, Sean's done a good job at times. Eric has made huge strides, in my estimation, to become a very reliable player out there. Phil Patterson is a guy that last week contributed, had a great week of practice, and is in the midst of having another great week of practice that I'm encouraged by his development.
Thanks, Justin.
You bet.
Our next question comes to the line of David Teal with the Daily Press. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Justin.
Good morning.
At least to the untrained eye, it appeared that after Vinny went out there late against Pittsburgh and down on the goal line, that Gaines really did well in his stead. Is that indeed what you all saw on tape?
It has been. How Sean has steadily improved on the field. I do believe that this football team is important to How Sean, that he wants to play well and continue to improve his role, or increase his role, I should say. And we have been pleased with him on the field. And when kind of the scenario you're talking about, he was ready and prepared and played well.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions for Coach Puente? Coach, thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend.
You bet. Thank you.
We'll be joined by Dave Clawson of Wake Forest right at noon, and that should be in about 2 minutes. Okay, we are back, and we're now joined by Wake Forest head coach Dave Clawson, whose Demon Deacons will host Atlantic Coast Conference foe Duke this Saturday at BB&T Field in Winston-Salem. The game will have a 12:30 p.m. kickoff, be televised nationally by 14 different regional sports networks, including Fox Sports South in North Carolina. The Duke-Wake rivalry is the ACC's second oldest, having begun in Raleigh in 1889, and Saturday's game is the 98th between the two teams. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Yeah, we're looking forward to hosting Duke this weekend at the final home game at BB&T Stadium and our final home game for the seniors. I think two of the biggest challenges in coaching is to get your team ready to play after a heartbreaking loss or an emotional win. Of those two challenges, you'd always rather deal with the second. And, the NC State win was a great win for us. NC State's an excellent team, and we were able to create some key turnovers and made enough plays on offense to win the game. Duke comes to town after a great win over Georgia Tech. They played really, really well in all facets of the game. They've got the number 3 defense in the conference and are playing really well on defense. And offensively, they're really, really good. Daniel Jones is a outstanding quarterback. Both Wilson and Brown, have 700 and 600 yards, and they're averaging 5.5 and almost 6 yards a carry. T.J. Ramming is one of the most dynamic receivers in the conference, and their offensive line is very physical and well coached. So Duke is always a tough, challenging rivalry game for us, and we have a lot of work to do to get ready for them on Saturday.
Questions for Coach Clawson?
To register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes in the line of Dan Tortora with WakeUpCallDT.com. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. To look at your tenure at Wake Forest, first couple seasons were 3 wins. Last season was 7. This season will, at the very least, be 7. Just what you can say about staying the course, sticking with the plan, and seeing the successes of it.
Well, you're always in the midst of it. I don't think you ever feel like you're there, and the second you feel that way, it's probably going to start slipping. So, we did have a plan, and we've stuck with it, but the most important part is that the players have bought in, and they've worked extremely hard. And, we've had improvement from them really year to year, week to week, and we just got to keep pushing and keep trying to get better. This is a very tough conference. There's never, ever a week that you can relax, and the second that you feel like you've arrived and you're there, again, it's going to slip backwards in a heartbeat.
And then as far as your tight end, Cam Serenay, just what he's meant to this program over time and how he's been one of the people to lean on offensively, one of the go-to guys, and obviously someone that's always relevant when it comes to the team's successes.
Yeah, again, with Cam, he's an outstanding player. He was always been a gifted receiver. He worked really hard to become a good blocker. But I just appreciate how unselfish he is. He's willing to take on any role to help our football team win. And sometimes, guys come back for a 5th year and, their mindset changes and it becomes about them. And that never, ever happened with Cam. And I really appreciate him because of that. He's just a great kid to have on a team. He's been a great leader for our program, a 2-year captain, but just sets an unselfish example with everything he does. And again, we're going to miss him, but I'm glad that we have him for 2 more games.
Thanks, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
Our next question comes to the line of David Hale with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Hey, Dave, I know you talked a little bit about this before, but when you said over the offseason that your expectation coming in was for Kendall to be the starter at quarterback, that you also kind of hoped that would be a little bit of a push for John. How did that kind of work out, and has this exceeded even your expectations for how John would respond to that?
Well, I just think competition brings out the best in people, and John's a very competitive. Internally, we were splitting reps with the ones, I just didn't want it to be the daily question of who's your starting quarterback. And but all through camp, all through spring, those guys split reps with the ones, and John won the job. And it wasn't like Kendall didn't play well. I've said from the get-go that sometimes in a quarterback competition, a guy loses it. In this case, a guy won it. And John just pushed himself so hard and was so driven, and I think that push and that competitor in him has been the engine that has driven our team this year. He never, ever gives up on a play, a situation, and just demands so much of himself, and in turn, I think nobody else on the team wants to let him down. And again, just really proud of him, and if anybody in college football deserves this type of year, it's him after when he went through the first couple of years.
Yeah, that was the other thing that I wanted to ask you about. I think you hear those sort of stories of guy gets hit so much early in his career that it has a very negative impact on him for years afterwards. How is it that John never seemed to have gotten rattled by some of the significant issues that he had to deal with in terms of this offense developing around him through a couple of years? What is it kind of said about his perseverance and character that hasn't affected his game at all?
Well, he's such a competitor, and he's so hard on himself. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I've seen quarterbacks without his type of mental toughness that those things would destroy them, and they never come back from it. And I think there's a lot of kids on our team that the adversity they went through. We played a lot of guys here on offense that were playing before they should have played. They weren't ready to play. We just had nobody else to play. And that situation will either make you or break you. And fortunately for us, I think it made John. I think it made Phil Haynes. I think it made Ryan Anderson. It made Cam Serenay. And now those guys have become really good players in the ACC and our team leaders. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's that can force you either way. And for us, John has the makeup that it made him, and it still drives him and still fuels him.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Our next question comes in the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Obviously, your offense has been on fire these last 4 games. What are you seeing from John and the offense to kind of explain why it seemingly you guys have kind of taken it up another notch in these last 4 games?
Well, I think he's just playing with a lot of confidence. He's got very comfortable with the offense. He's made really good decisions. He makes quick decisions. He's thrown so many footballs to these guys over 4 years. Cam Serenay and Chucky Wade and Dabari Hines. I mean, all these guys started playing together 3 and 4 years ago. And, that chemistry between a quarterback and a receiver takes time. How are you going to run the slant versus press or off or, SIF coverage or man? I mean, all these different things. It's just the accumulation of reps over 4 years. There starts to be a real benefit to that, and so I think these guys know where to expect the ball and when to expect it, and because of that, we're able to put it in tighter windows than we were a year ago or 2 years ago. But I think a lot of it just has to do that our offensive line's improved, and John has more time now, and our receivers have more time to get open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of Sam Blum with the Daily Progress. Please go ahead.
Hi, Dave. I'm just curious. Last week, Bronco Mendenhall was kind of talking about if somebody asked him if he could make one rule change in the sport, what it would be, and he talked about how coaches should not leave their school until after they play in their bowl game. And I'm curious, just as a coach that's been through that experience, what your perspective is on something like that, and if you think that's kind of a feasible idea.
Well, I think if philosophically, I agree with him. I just don't think the way the hiring cycle is and the way the recruiting cycle is that's realistic. I had a situation that I would have loved to coach the bowl game at Bowling Green and finish the year with the team, but I was now the head coach at Wake Forest. and to miss 3 weeks of recruiting and not put a staff together during that time, I wouldn't be doing my job. And so, especially with the signing date now being in December, I think that problem's only going to get worse. As a coach in a new job, if you can't miss a recruiting cycle, if you can't recruit a class in a year, they're going to fire you 3 years later. So, unless athletic directors get together and agree to change, when they're allowed to fire coaches and hire coaches, and if they're going to move the signing date back another month, I just don't think it's real. So philosophically, I agree with them. I just don't think pragmatically that's real. I mean, the rule that I'd like to see changed is, they eliminated the 3-man wedge in kickoff returns. I think they should eliminate the 2-men. We've seen more of those high-speed, double-team, 2 guys together blocks this year. And if you want to make the game safer, I think that's a rule that should be looked into, of eliminating the double teams from the back lines on kickoff return.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the time.
Yep.
And our next question is from Ed Harden with Greensboro News. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, you understand the history of Wake Forest football as well as anyone. You understand how hard it is to do what you've done, to get your program where it is right now. It might even be harder now to sustain that, particularly when other schools come after your staff and situations like that. You talked about your plan to get to where you are. Have you changed your plan now that you've gotten here, and what is the Wake Forest plan in the years to come?
Well, I mean, I don't think we've capped what we can do here. I think that there's still a higher ceiling of what we can accomplish. I think if you look at the investment in our program here, I'm hoping that dynamic's changed. I mean, we're investing, $70 to $75 million in new practice facilities and locker rooms and a strength and conditioning center, and we have a sports performance center, an indoor. We're going to have a nutrition center, new offices. You don't do that just so you can get to 6 wins every 3 years. So, we've made progress, but this isn't the end all. We still think there's a lot more that we can accomplish here. And I know our players feel that way, and I know our staff feels that way.
Thanks, Dave. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Ed. Thank you.
Any more questions for Coach? Coach, thanks for being with us today, and good luck this weekend.
And Mike, just as a parting word here, thank you for everything. Every week, your professionalism, just working with you at all the meetings. The ACC was very lucky and very fortunate to have somebody like you, and you are a true professional, and thank you very, very much for the way you've treated me in my 4 years in the league. So you're going to be missed.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. We now welcome Pitt head football coach Pat Narduzzi, whose Panthers will host Coastal Division foe Miami this Friday at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. The game will have a noon kickoff, be nationally televised by ESPN. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and then we'll go to questions.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. First off, I think the Panthers have probably the toughest job in the ACC this week, week 12 of the season, with the Miami Hurricanes coming up to Pittsburgh. They're fast, they're explosive, they're confident, they're well coached, and we've got a great challenge. So, great football team coming in here, and we've got an opportunity to play a playoff team.
Questions for Coach Narduzzi?
To register for a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes from the line of Ted Sobel with Sports USA Radio. Please go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Facing an unbeaten Miami, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be more likely your team is able to take something from last year's similar situation when you took care of Clemson and their only defeat of the season? How much does it help at its senior day with some other guys from Florida knowing, hey, they want to go out on a winning note?
Yeah, no question, Ted. I think you can always refer back to what's happened in the past. try to live in the present. So all our guys know what happened a year ago. I think all our guys understand that anybody can beat anybody on any given day. You can get beat by anybody on any given day, and I think that's the method our kids have walked into every game, that hey, we can win. I think they believe that we can win, and we got to go out and compete against the best. And they're certainly the best. They've proved they're the best in the ACC and in one of the top 4 teams in the country. So they know it can be done. But it's not just going to be laid in their lap. Miami's not going to come in here and lay down. They're well coached. They're motivated, and like I said, they're very, very confident. And a bunch of guys that are on a mission, and they have a lot to lose if they don't come in here ready. I know Mark Richt for a long time, since he was at Georgia, and we played him when I was at Michigan State. He's a tremendous football coach. He's done an incredible job in the last couple of years with some talented football players and a talented location down in South Florida. So he's got a great great football team, and it's an opportunity for us to step up and find out where we measure up with maybe one of the best teams in the country.
And one more thing real quick. Speaking of seniors, how much are you going to miss your one-arm DB, Avonte Maddox, after this game? I spoke to him yesterday. He is one impressive guy.
He really is, Ted. I appreciate you saying that. I was talking to someone yesterday. It's Parents' Day, and his mom will get down for the game, and who wouldn't want Avonte Maddox as a son? He is, he'll be a son really to me for the rest of my life. He's just a super, super kid. We've got a bunch of them. We got a bunch of seniors the same way. We got, the character of kid we have here at the University of Pittsburgh is second to none, and I'm proud to say I'm their head football coach, and Avonte is certainly a special individual.
Appreciate the time, Coach.
He's got 2 arms though.
One of them only works partially.
He had a heck of an interception last week with that arm and a half game, right?
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you, Ted.
Our next question comes to the line of Dan Totoro with WakeUpCallDT.com. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
Doing super, Dan. How you doing?
Doing well. Just what you can say about learning through this ACC, being a part of the ACC for the last few seasons, just what you've taken away from the level of competition and the level of talent, and how people from the outside looking in typically say top to bottom, but it doesn't really feel like there is a bottom to the ACC.
No, not at all, Dan. I mean, this conference, and I think I've said this on other calls. So for you listening, that you're saying, "Gosh, you said the same thing last time." I've been in the Big Ten for 8 years, and I've seen the different levels of competition. I've seen the speed. I've seen the quarterback levels. I truly believe, again, at least in my 3 seasons at Pitt, watching the talent level, that there is no better conference in the ACC. And I'm not saying that to pump up our league or my league. It's certainly one of the best, and not only the players, but the coaches. I think that the amount of quality, classy head football coaches, and a group of assistant coaches and coordinators at all levels. I mean, when you watch the tape and you put it in, you're looking at it going, that's a good scheme. That's good stuff right there. I mean, it comes down to you players better make plays, and I couldn't be more impressed with obviously the level of play and coaching in this conference.
And then as far as your quarterback position, with Kenny Pickett and Ben DiNucci, just what you can say you've taken away from these guys, 2 young guys under center for you as you move forward and look for that right guy under center. What have you taken from Kenny and Ben so far?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're looking for, is that right guy. And one day it's this guy, one day it's the next guy, and there's constant competition. And that's kind of how the game of football is supposed to be, I guess. And everybody would like to lock in and say, hey, this is the guy, and then just live with it. But you know what? There comes a point where maybe he's not the guy. They're both still young quarterbacks. They're both not perfect. They both try to get better every day, and we just got to kind of ride the hot hand. And last week we felt like Kenny was a hot hand. We're going to continue. We got one more week of practice, or one more day of practice for this week, and we'll find out who the hot guy is this week, and kind of go with them. And then if things don't go as well as we want, we'll make a switch in whatever manner we feel is best to carry the program forward. But the great thing is, I think we got 2 really good quarterbacks for the future that are going to continue to develop under Sean Watson, our quarterback coach and coordinator, and I'm impressed with the way they get better every week, and I think really both of them have gotten better. We see it every day in practice. Unfortunately, the media sees it just on one day and game day, and I think that's the thing. Regardless of your position, that you continue to push forward daily, and persist in trying to fundamentally, mentally be a better football player.
Thanks, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Our next question comes to the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. As you look at Miami on film, what kind of jumps out at you to kind of explain, okay, this is why they're undefeated this year, this is why they're have a better record than they did last year? What kind of jumps out at you to kind of give insight to that?
Yeah, first it comes down to coaching. I mean, I think obviously the coordinators, Manny Diaz does a great job on defense, and Mark calls the offense, and it comes down to number one, some play calling. They got some tremendous athletes that are big and fast, and not just fast and tiny. They've got a legitimate national championship caliber football team. Period. It's what they have, and they've kept it simple enough that those guys can play fast. I mean, they're not a overly complicated football team when you look at what they do offensively and defensively. But you know what? You don't have to be when you have better dudes out there, and they've got some guys that can flat play. They're smart, and they get the job done. I mean, when you look at the 10 returning starters they have on defense, I mean, you got 3 really returning defensive ends between Jackson, Thomas, and Harris, and the Ken Norton inside with McIntosh. I mean, they're good, and shoot, their linebackers. They were all freshmen a year ago, and I was like, holy cow, they graduate yet? And they don't graduate in 1 year at Miami, unfortunately. But those 3 guys now are all sophomores, and I can't imagine what they look like if they stay for 2 more years. Unfortunately, most of them don't anymore. But 3 tremendous players back, at the linebacker spot. So, and then offensively, I mean, I really think Malik Rozier is a fast quarterback. I mean, when I look at him, if things break down in the passing game or in protection, he's able to go make plays with his feet. So I've been impressed, obviously, with him. And you know what? Travis Walton, or I believe it's Travis, the Walton kid, their starting tailback in the past. Obviously, is not in the 2D, but Travis Homer is a football player that kind of reminds me of, I know he wears 24, kind of reminds me of James Conner a little bit, just a physical, strong, fast running back. I mean, he runs with his pads low, and he's impressive. And then obviously there's skill receivers out there. They line up in 3 receiver sets probably 85% of the time. And Amon Richards is a tremendous football player. We saw that a year ago, that we're going to have to match his speed. It's going to be a test of speed out there on the edge, and our DBs are going to have to play a heck of a football game to cover them.
What did your defense do particularly well last week against Virginia Tech that you want to kind of maintain that level this week?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mark.
I said, what did you feel your defense did particularly well against Virginia Tech that you're kind of telling them, okay, we need to keep that level this week?
Yeah. Well, I think they played the passing game well. Did not play the run game as well as we'd like, not to our standards. We'd like to keep them under 100 yards rushing. We didn't do that. But they had some quarterback runs in there. I don't think they had a big run. They only had 3 explosive plays. So I guess probably if you ask me, as a former defense coordinator and defense coach, you want to be stingy. You want to take everything away. We held someone to minus 48 yards rushing. That's kind of what the expectations are. And I know that's unrealistic in some of the games that we play in nowadays. But I guess the biggest thing that impressed you is we took away explosives last week. They only had 3 explosive plays, and we feel like if we keep a team under 4 explosive, which is a 15-yard run or a 20-yard pass, that you have a chance to win the game. And unfortunately, if we eliminate that one long pass they threw at the end, I should say a 30-yard, 25-yard pass at the end for a touchdown, where Jackson threw it up there, that we would have won the game. But so there's never a magic number. You put a total on that as far as explosives. But I guess the biggest thing we did was we eliminated explosive plays, and we bent, but we did not break on the explosive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Coach Narduzzi? Coach, thanks for being with us, and good luck on Friday.
Hey, thanks, Mike. And, I also want to thank you, obviously. Wish you a happy Thanksgiving, number one. and wish you luck in your retirement. I'm sure I'm going to see you at one of these ACC meetings. I can still see you, a guy that's going to be hanging around and be a part of it. I sure hope, just not working, maybe just playing some golf and having some different dessert with us. But in my 3 short years here, Mike, you're a first-class act, and you'll be greatly missed by all your colleagues in the ACC, as well as the coaches in this league. So thank you for everything you've done for us the last 3 years, and good luck to you.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate those comments. It's been my pleasure to be here. Before we get to Coach Adazio from Boston College, I just want to remind people that Coach Cutcliffe, who normally is at 12:30, will be at 12:50 today due to a conflict with his normal press conference, but he'll be after Coach Dorn at 12:40. And so we can move on to Boston College head coach Steve Adazio, whose Eagles will travel to Syracuse, New York for a Saturday game against the Orange at the Carrier Dome. The game will have a 12:20 p.m. kickoff. It will be televised to 120 markets of the ACC network. BC freshman A.J. Dillon became just the second freshman in ACC history to top the 200-yard mark twice in his first season. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
Thanks, Mike. I, too, want to say we wish you the well in your future, in retirement, and also really appreciate your professionalism and all that you've done for the ACC and all of us coaches, and the way you've handled all the press conferences and these calls. So we really appreciate all you've done, and we're going to miss you. So I want to wish you well. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving with your family and a great future moving forward. As we get ready for this rivalry weekend, playing Syracuse, a rival team, I'm really impressed. I've always been impressed with Dino and what he's done and what he's done with his program. They've got some really fine players, and I look at their quarterbacks. They're explosive on offense. Eric Dungy is, in my opinion, one of the elite players in the conference. Zach Mahoney has really looked good playing in games and is a great talent throwing the football. Dante Strickland, very productive, real good running back. Obviously, Steve Ishmael or Phillips are elite receivers in our conference nationally. So offensively, they are very explosive and have big play, strike capability. And, obviously we have the utmost respect for them. On defense, I think they play very, very hard on defense, very physically on defense. Zaire Franklin, I think, is an outstanding football player. With 77 tackles on the year and 5.5 TFLs, and just really productive, really good football player, knows for the ball. Paris Bennett, another linebacker that I think is outstanding. He leads the team in tackles. Evan Foster on the back end. They create a lot of pressure. They got a lot of movement going on. They disrupt a lot of offenses. And we know that this is a tough place to play. I spent some great years up there. And with this game being the kind of game that it is, it's always a real tough, physical, hard-fought game. So we're preparing like crazy right now, and know that this will be a very, very difficult task. Any questions?
Ladies and gentlemen, to register for a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes in the line of Dan Tortora with WakeUpCallDT.com. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
Great, thank you.
To look at, like you said, your return to Syracuse and for Paul Pasqualoni, just what you can say about, I mean, obviously you guys recruit up there, you found success up there and brought it to Boston College, and then you had success being on the staff there before. Just what type of nostalgia maybe that creates for you and a connection that you've always had with the community and going and finding talent in Central New York?
Well, the high school football in Central New York is awesome, and there's great players every year that come out of there. My experience at Syracuse was really a phenomenal one. I mean, we were a part of 3 conference championships, 3 BCS bowl games, and just incredible crowds in the dome. I mean, it's entrenched in my memory of one of the most electric atmospheres I've ever been in my career. So, and I've got great friends to this day there, neighbor friends, and I just think it's such an awesome community, and I respect Syracuse. I respect all the former players, and and everybody associated with that program. And I'm not going to speak for Coach P. What he did there is legendary. Obviously on this day, this is a day when we play that, and it's all about one thing, Boston College. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you outside of that day, I'm always have a fond place for Syracuse University, without a doubt. And I wouldn't be where I am today without Syracuse in my background. So that's probably as much as I need to dribble on about the team that we're going to go to war with here very, very, very shortly.
And when you look at going to war, I mean, your team will be going to a bowl game 4 and 5 years. You already have that locked up. Just speak on finishing strong, as well as staying the course of your plan at Boston College and showing the community around the Boston College, around the school, that your plan that you wanted to implement has been working and continues to work toward the postseason once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's all about, this profession we're in, it's all about winning. And it's all about making sure that you have an upward trajectory. And we've recruited well, we're developing well, and we're building. And while we're doing that, we've been very, very fortunate. This will be our 4th opportunity in 5 years to go to a bowl game and to win a bowl game, hopefully. And so in that building process, we're able to stay bowl eligible and build. We have a great young team with a bright future. I think that's critically important. And what I'm most proud of, to be honest with you, is that we've got unbelievably high character kids that really, their academics are extremely important to them. It's a great place to be. It's a great locker room to be around. They're a big bulk of Northeast kids, and they represent Boston College the right way. And so I think, like everybody else trying to do the same thing, you want to do it with class and dignity, and you want to build your program. You want to have a model. Ours is toughness along with that, and I think it's something that our alumni and our fan base can be proud of and want to be a part of. Obviously, we're all in a foot race to develop and to win as many games, and you set your goals. You want to win the opener. You want to get bowl eligible, and at some point, you want to compete for conference championships. I'm not saying anything that every other coach isn't saying, but along the way, to do it the right way is critically important. And I think teams in our conference do an unbelievable. The coaches in our conference do an unbelievable job of representing their universities and also our conference.
Thanks, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Our next question comes to the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. With A.J. Dillon's a great season this year, did you kind of see this coming, or has he kind of exceeded your expectations in any way with his development this year?
Well, I mean, I think we had high expectations and high hopes for him. I would say, though, that any time a true freshman can do what he's done, you'd have to put that in the exceeding category. But, I mean, it's not that we didn't think he was capable of it. I said that he would go down and have an unbelievably remarkable career here at Boston College. And so I think one of the great things for A.J. has been John Hillman has really done a terrific job in mentoring A.J. And John is a really good football player, was a tremendous person. And so I really like that dynamic and that chemistry right there. But so he's had a great year and been an extremely productive, explosive, dominant player for us.
What did you see that made you think, okay, this guy's going to have a great career at Boston College? What was what did you kind of notice that kind of made you think this was going to happen?
Well, let's start with the obvious. He's a 6 foot, 40-pound guy that can run 10-600 meter. So you're talking about a really big, powerful man who can fly. And then you wrap into the most important part of it, which is he's an extremely bright, intelligent, high-character guy. He, came out of high school in Connecticut, went to Lawrence Academy, and really performed well academically. And this is real important to him, the quality of degree that he has. So I think you take someone with his character and work ethic, and then you put it into his God-given body and ability, and I think that makes for a pretty powerful combination.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Coach Adazio? Coach, thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend.
All the best to you, Mike. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Coach. We will be joined by Coach Dave Dorn of NC State right at 12:40. He will be followed by David Cutcliffe of Duke. So it'll be Coach Dorn of NC State at 12:40, Coach Cutcliffe of Duke at 12:50. No, that got out there. We're back now with NC State head coach Dave Doran, whose Wolfpack will host our rival North Carolina this Saturday at Carter Finley Stadium. The game will have a 3:30 p.m. kickoff. It'll be nationally televised by ESPNU with a kickoff time of 3:30. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and I'll go to questions.
Thanks, Mike. Looking forward to a rivalry game here at home and Thanksgiving weekend and Senior Day. Great group of young men, 20 seniors that we get to honor before the game with their families, and then take the game against our rival and UNC. And looking forward to that football game and what it means to our program, and I know to theirs as well. Questions?
Ladies and gentlemen, to register for questions, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypads. And our first question comes to the line of Dan Tortora with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
Hey, Dan.
To look at, obviously, you mentioning the senior class, just what you can say about Jalen Samuels. He's been a little bit of everything that you've needed offensively throughout his time at NC State, and just what you can say about not only him on the field, but as a person off the field as well, and how coachable he's been for you.
You bet. Super versatile, very durable young man that does a lot and has a super high football IQ. You know, he can handle so many things and doesn't take a lot of reps to get him down, and comes from tremendous parents and a great program in Mallard Creek and Coach Palmieri, and it's just been from day one a guy that you like being around, and really not a very talkative guy. Shows up every day the same way. That's why his teammates voted 2 years ago to let him wear the number 1 jersey. Just every day he's a guy that works hard, makes plays, and does what the team needs him to do. And off the field the same, you know, never see him on a list, never late to anything, never misses anything, always has a good attitude. Just a great young man to have in your program and be around.
And then as far as NC State under you as a whole, I mean, the first season was 3 wins, and for the last 4 since then, including this season, you brought the team to a bowl game. Just what you can say about the plan that you implemented 5 years ago, staying the course, and then seeing the success of that plan.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I just, really proud of these players and coaches and the way they fight. And we've lost some tough games and won some big games this year, and continue to come to work every day with a great attitude. Just fun guys to coach. And when I got here, it was all about just teaching them how to win and how to prepare and how to enjoy the process and be accountable, and just create a culture where guys love being around each other and the game and the work that it takes and the sacrifice that it takes. And we've been able to do that, and it's fun to see it that way and fun to be around a senior class that has helped us make it that way.
Thanks, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
You're welcome. Thank you. You too.
And our next question comes to the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. I want to ask you about Hines and kind of what you've seen. And obviously, he was a good player for you last year, but what have you kind of seen from him and his development this year?
Well, he's a game changer for us, and unfortunately, we've had him on and off here with his health, and he's so fast and tough and competitive and sees the hole, hits it, hard to bring down, and as a returner, just changes the field, and he's a threat to take it to the house every time he touches it. So, hopefully we'll have him in this game. And today the trainer said we would, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed that it continues that way. But love Naheem and everything he brings to our program.
What are you asking your team in terms of what you want to see them do better compared to coming off last week? Is there anything you're looking offensively from these last few weeks you're looking to take it up a notch?
Sure. I mean, we moved the ball great last week. We just need more touchdowns, and we've been very good on third down in the last 2 games and kept the ball away. We just need to get more points from a touchdown standpoint, and obviously turnover margin is a big part of that. You can't come away with 0, and we tell our guys you want to end every series with a kick, and if that means it's a punt, it's a punt, but we can't turn it over and give them field position and momentum. And I would say the biggest 2 things would be those 2, just the turnovers and that we've had, and our inability to get the number of touchdowns that match kind of how we're moving the ball, because we're really doing a good job of moving the football and keeping it on third down.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Sam Blum with the Daily Progress. Please go ahead.
Hi. So last week on Teleconference, Bronco Mendenhall kind of mentioned a rule change that he would like to see in terms of coaches not being allowed to leave the school that they're at until after that school plays in the bowl game, should they make it there. I'm curious, having kind of been in that situation, yourself, how you kind of view that statement, and if you think it's a kind of a feasible idea or even a good idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great conversation. I don't know all the rationale, so it'd be hard for me without giving it some thought to think about all the consequences of it. But I do think, for me, having to leave Northern Illinois and come here and not be able to coach in an Orange Bowl was very difficult, and I wish a million times over I could have coached in that game, but it's not how it worked. And I just, for everybody involved, it'd be great to be able to finish something like that before changes are made. But the recruiting calendar has changed things for ADs as well, and especially now at this new signing period. So, there's a lot of new things that we're not even really haven't been through, as coaches yet. This will be the first December that we have a high school signing date. So I just think there's a lot of unknowns right now. But I do think it's a great idea to bring up and have some great conversation about.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please go ahead.
Hi, Coach Dave. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Talk about your senior class. What are they meant to you? Because that's probably your first senior class there at NC State. So just talk about it.
They're special guys. And they're great players. But just what they've done from a work ethic and a standard standpoint and the way they act and lead and just being around them. Cole Cook, Sean Boone, Bradley Chubb. Just go through the 20 names, and they're just tremendous human beings. I'm going to miss their company as much as I am coaching them. I just like being around those guys, and I told them all the other day I thank them 100 times over for what they've given to NC State, and I know they're going to be successful people in whatever career they end up in when football ends.
Well, talk about North Carolina. They're a 3-8 squad, but they're still a tough team no matter what. I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries, and
Right.
quarterback has been an issue. So, what do you guys have to do to pull out a win?
Well, I think whenever you play your rival, you can't look at that stuff. You have to know that this game's been going on for over 100 years, and there's a lot of motivation behind it on both sidelines, and your fans and alum, and so you kind of throw the records and the stats out, and they have had injuries, so have we, and it's just going to come down to execution and taking care of the football and tackling and big plays, and it's what it always does, and we try not to get caught up in any of it. I know when they had good seasons and we went over there and beat them, we didn't talk about how many wins they had. We just talked about winning the game and what we needed to do to win the game, and I don't see it any different from their side. They're going to do everything they can to get a win, and the last two games they've been able to do that. And for us, we just need to get back to playing really good football and making a few more plays.
Well, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Stan Evers with Rocky. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering if maybe after last week's loss, if there's maybe a word that you could put to the feeling in the locker room after, and then if the moving on process was any different than the previous week.
Yeah. Anytime you lose a game like that, where it comes down to a singular play, a play at the goal line in this instance that was literally millimeters from being a game-winning play. Those are heartbreaking losses. That's what they are. And our guys are resilient. They know that this week matters too, so we can't linger. But it hurts, and there's nothing you can really say to get over that. These guys played hard, and they got themselves in a position to win, and it just didn't happen. And there's nobody in the world that felt worse than Omeka at that time, but there were other plays in the game, and these kids all supported them, and we had a good practice today, so look forward to getting into the routine here.
Yeah, and then just as a coach, is there anything you can say to him to kind of make him feel better, or is it just you got to give him...
Yeah, obviously you put your arm around him, and you just say, look, man, it wasn't like you meant to do it, and you're going to have a heck of a career, and it's your job now to make up for it, and you'll learn from it and be better, and it's all you can do.
Yeah, gotcha. Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Any more questions for Coach Doran? Coach, thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend. Have a great Thanksgiving.
All right, you do the same, Mike. Thanks a lot. Go Pack.
We're pleased to welcome Duke head football coach David Cutcliffe, whose Blue Devils will travel to Winston-Salem for a Saturday game against Wake Forest at BB&T Field. The game will have a 12:30 p.m. kickoff and will be televised nationally by 14 different regional sports networks, and also will be available on ACC Network Extra in areas where the regional networks do not cover. Saturday's game between the Blue Devils and Demon Deacons is one of two interdivisional games in the ACC this weekend. The Atlantic Division currently holds an 8-4 advantage this year. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
All right. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is I guess this is the last teleconference I will be doing with Mike Finn. And Mike, just appreciate your professionalism, your leadership and commitment to the ACC. It's coming on a Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, so I just want to let you know and all those listening how thankful I am of the 10 years that I've had to work with you in the ACC. So I'll move from there and talk about, I'm not so thankful about having to play Wake Forest, who may be as hot a football team as there is, just really playing at a high level, a very talented team. They've got a nice blend of experienced leadership with some young players that are playing at a high level. They're extremely well coached in all three phases, and they are a huge challenge for us, and particularly with Jeremy McDuffie, we announced today, will be facing knee surgery Monday. So we've lost he and Ben Humphreys over the last 2 weeks, and that's been a difficult challenge. So along with Wake being as good as they are, we got to rally and refocus and be ready. I'll take your questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, please press the 1-4 to register for a question. And our first question comes from the line of Dan Tortora with wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
I'm good, Dan. I hope you're doing all right.
I'm doing well. So look at your team, and I know you said not being thankful for having to play Wake Forest, but despite the 6-game losing streak, your team got back to a victory against Georgia Tech, and you control your own destiny in this last game to move forward and get into the bowl season. Just what you can say about the importance of this game, and despite the skid that you had, the fact that the team got back to winning, just what that showed you with the resiliency of your team to not end the way that things had been going.
Well, we had senior day here, 21 seniors counting our scholarship and walk-on players. We've got 7 senior starters, and their leadership throughout the difficult time has been outstanding, as well as the staff keeping it together. And if you're not able to do that, you will never come out of it. So it's been a lot of hard work, and it's difficult, but proud of their approach. The thing that is we face this weekend, it's Wake Forest to us, which is a rival. It's an hour and 15 minutes down the road, and really that's where your focus lies. There are things that can come good from this if we can go play well enough to win the game. But I'm hoping what I want to see, and we did it today, but is the kind of practice and focus and intensity that we've displayed so we can play hopefully better than we did a week ago, and that's always the goal.
Coach, with a decade at Duke, just what you can say you have learned from your time there and you've taken away from your time there. Longevity is something you don't see a lot in college football anymore. Just what you can say about the last 10 years that you've taken from Duke.
You know, I think that the way longevity works, and I believe this about college football, you have an opportunity to win if you surround yourself with really good people. And it's been a lot of combinations of good people. We've had some coaches go on that are head coaches. We've had some coaches go on to the NFL, but we've kept our support group intact. And you don't want to use the term family if it's not real, but we've been able to develop a Duke football family here that I think we all care enough about each other to make this thing go. And that is a carryover to your players because they sense those types of people around them. So I think that's the most important part of what we do, to be honest with you. And I know that I've learned that here.
Thank you, Coach, and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Our next question comes from the line of David Hale with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Hey, David. I'm just curious how I know the numbers maybe don't necessarily reflect his performance, but how would you kind of view where year two has gone for Daniel in terms of his progression as a quarterback?
Yeah, he has, had some spots where it's been tough. Some of that, he would accept, and probably all of it he would accept, but as his coach, it's a combination of some of the things that are going on around him. And it's not been any one thing. Sometimes protection has been an issue. Sometimes the route running or drop balls, the inconsistency of a run game at times is never friendly to a quarterback. So what I can tell you is this about him, and I sat down with him Sunday about this. His growth is far beyond the numbers. Difficulty is when we find ourselves gaining the most growth. And that's really a fact of life. It's not a very pleasant fact of life. But he's accepted the role that he's been given. He's better today for it. And I know that he is looking forward to another big challenge this week. But I think he's also one of these, he's really hungry to try to do something special. So I like where he is mentally. I think he understands the circumstances that he's dealt with right now.
And 10 years of doing this, do you have a good Mike Finn story to share? Good, your memory of Mike Finn?
Well, I can tell you my early memories of Mike Finn are how quickly he got tired of me bringing up anything we did in the SEC, And now I'm such a long-term ACC member that I clearly understand that. And Mike doesn't say much. He just looks at you. So he's burned me a few times with his eyes in early meetings. And I mean that, respectfully, Mike, but you can burn people pretty good with your eyes when you want to. So that's quickly what bounced into my mind when you asked.
Thanks, Dave. And I will take my moment to say thank you to Mike for all of us on this side of the line as well. I appreciate all of the terrible questions he has probably listened to over the years.
Well, I tell you, Mike's pretty special, David. I appreciate you saying that myself.
And our next question comes from the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Offensively, what changed for you last week? What are you kind of trying to tell your team that they need to kind of recapture and keep that on that same level offensively this week?
Well, I think you always look at your preparation. The consistency of your preparation or inconsistency of it is real, and you are trying to win the game every rep out there at practice. And if you don't approach it that way, and I'm not, this isn't coach talk. I can show them on tape, and I have. If you are in that mode that you think you can overcome practice, you're rarely right. And so some of the inconsistencies that we've seen, during games, I could show our guys, and I did, on practice tape. When we've played extremely well, counter to that, I can show them what it's supposed to look like at practice. So that's kind of the focus that we've maintained, and we put a big value in how we work at practice.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from the line of Stan Evers with Rocky. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Obviously William Holmquist had a pretty special moment kicking that extra point the other day. I was just wondering maybe your thoughts a few days after, and if it's been a special couple of days for him.
If I could have physically done a backflip at that moment, I would have on the sideline. That's how much I think of Willie Holmquist. He is a fine young man. His opportunity, and first thing I said to him, I said, "You're in the books, buddy. You've scored at Duke."
Yeah.
And but he's overcome, what some people might view as a disability. He doesn't. But his lack of hearing has brought a focus to that young man that I think is special. I'm not talking about a football field. Anybody that wants to have a good conversation with Willie Holmquist. He is locked in. We had one today. So I'm very happy he's here. He is his value has gone beyond the field. He's a great teammate. He's a great person, and I think Duke is going to be very fortunate to have a great grad student leave here and represent Duke University as well as Tufts very well.
Gotcha. Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir.
And our next question comes in the line of Ed Harden with Greensboro News. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, I asked Dave Clawson this question a little while ago. We went a generation or more without Duke or Wake having any success at all on the football field. And it looked at times like maybe that just wasn't possible. And then you've done what you've done at Duke. You've seen what he's done at Wake. It's a unique rivalry, but could you talk about how hard it is to win in a private school in today's NCAA climate?
Well, I will say this: coming in here, I may have thought I knew what I needed to do, and I don't know that we really did. What we did was we wrote down everything on a board, our staff at that time, and it was a lot of things, of reasons we couldn't win. And after looking at them, and we erased a few, and then we kept the ones up there that we thought we could do something about. And so I think that's the key. And we might want to use the term hard, or we might want to use the term different. I think it's not easy to win anywhere. And I think that's a misnomer. And that's what I told our people here. I didn't want to hear anybody talking about how hard it was going to be to win here. It's not easy anywhere that I've ever been. And I've been at the University of Alabama and Tennessee and Ole Miss. So I think the bottom line is you have to learn a place. And I certainly know that Dave Clawson and his staff has done that at Wake. They've done it everywhere he's been. And I think we've learned through time here that there is a way. But you've got to be true to that path, and true to that way is the one thing that you learn. But so I really don't like, and I'm not being gracious, I don't like the term it's hard here. It's different here. And you have to kind of learn how you go about it.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right.
Coach, it's Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for the kind comments. Have a happy Thanksgiving and good luck this weekend.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there that are listening, and Mike, certainly to you. Enjoy some time.
Will do. This concludes today's ACC Football Coaches Teleconference. Please join us this Sunday at 4 p.m. when we will have both of the participating coaches, Dabo Sweeney and Mark Rick, available on a teleconference beginning at 4 p.m. this Sunday with Coach Sweeney, and then 4:30 with Coach Rick. Thanks for being with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the conference call for today. We thank you for your participation. I ask that you please disconnect your lines.